All right, guys, hear me now? Checking 1 2 3. Checking. All right, go over what I just talked about. So, welcome to episode 100, Environment Critique. Thank you for joining me live, or if you're watching recording, hopefully everything I go over will be helpful. Again, I review homework from the last environment critique. So, anything that you want to drop or questions you want to ask, pin it or at me in the Discord channel. That's how I know, and I will make sure to go over it. So, as always, if you're a member, this right now is kind of shown to everybody. We're gonna try to do this every week. There's a lot of sessions that happens, not just for regular members, environment and lighting critique, but there's a lot of pro members that meet up. So I think once a week or once every 2 weeks, we're gonna try to show that to the public so that people can get a taste. But with that being said, tomorrow's a big one. Tomorrow we're gonna premiere GSO TV, which is a Friday weekly update video broadcast. So we're gonna have that finding us in Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, Patreon, of course, as well as our main GSO page, GSO Live page. You will see me kind of going over the biggest news, celebrating student successes, celebrating the school. Any news or updates about the school during that week, we will go over, which will in turn become a newsletter on Monday in printed form. Any links, any galleries that we show will be there. So this is a way in a social media effort for Game School Online to start, you know, including guys in the loop. So big things. So that's happening tomorrow, 8 a.m. PST. Be sure to join up if you can and ask some live questions. And if there's good ones, I'll make sure to go over it. Okay, so let's go into the environment critique. So I'm going to go over the homework channel first. So if you're joining me live, just make sure you ping me. So I'm checking this out real quick. Hopefully you can see my screen. I think you're on you're starting out really well. I think the blockout is feeling really cemented. Like even with you're not finished yet, obviously, but you're already thinking about how things connect, which is great. Nothing feels so floaty yet, so I think continue, man. I have no. You're still in the blockout phase. I don't see anything wrong with what you're doing so far. So this is good. This is good work. Question: you bevel everything because there's no sharp edge, but when I display the smooth edge, sometimes it doesn't look like it needs beveling. Is it okay to leave sharp edges in this case? Or is it better to bevel anyways to have a better raw model? Two bars inside the rear will look alright to me in smooth shading, but are very rough shapes when looking at the wireframe. So even though, but in the naked eye, a sharp edge may look okay in shading, but in reality, when you start lighting this thing, is when you start seeing errors being pronounced, right? So there's no way to fake lighting. It needs geometry for light to help shade things, and I would recommend highly to make sure you bevel everything. And this is not just a high poly thing. Um, Real time game models nowadays are triangles are becoming cheaper and cheaper. You got to be still mindful, but no one talks about polygons as much anymore in current gen uh, environments or 3D models. So it is a habit that you need to get used to, and you need to solve because it's gonna bring up topology issues that you need to be able to figure out to keep as quads. Right, this is good practice. So I would definitely recommend you to bevel as much as possible, especially the large shapes. Right, if it's still like a tiny shape, that you can barely see and it's hidden behind things, I'm not gonna notice as much, right? But if it's like your engine right here, you know, these top parts, you gotta bevel those. You have to bevel those, right? I would even argue, you know, if you're gonna bevel these, you need to bevel these shapes here, right? Anything that is visible like this needs to be bevel. Everything needs to be bevel. It's just gonna look better when you do a high poly render, right? It's gonna be obvious if it's not. You can't do a close-up of this engine if this is sharp, right? It doesn't look as good. So definitely bevel those things. 2 bars beside the wheel look all right to me. Yeah, definitely bevel those. I mean, this is a good start. Bigger bevels though. Those bevels are looking too sharp, so just be careful on that. It's gonna look better if it's a larger bevel. Telephone. Yeah, this is starting to look much better, much more believable, right? This is looking really good. So yeah, I like how you're putting like a gradient dirt now on the cord, and you know, we talked about how the halfway point of a lot of these metal objects from the bottom up, it gets dirtier, and you know, you're starting to put some edge dirt between the cracks and stuff, which is feeling better and better. So I think this is a good attempt. You know, the handle still feels a bit clean, so I think you can apply more grime and dirt along this, but I feel like you're getting closer and closer. Looks good. Eon. Let's see this. Ooh, fancy. So good work in progress. Obviously, I think you're gonna do the whole thing, which is great. I would even suggest the best way to do props like these, right? Even if you do all the fruits and the umbrella and everything, really, really strongly suggest thinking of it as taking this chunk of this corner right here, right? The corner of the street, even with this little telephone pole. Like include that whole thing. I think that'll be a nice little mini scene, and it's gonna ground your prop, and it's gonna pronounce all your sculpting abilities too. So just like imagine taking the corner of the sidewalk and a piece of the asphalt road. I think it would look like a pretty strong piece if you're able to sculpt everything and have a high poly version as well as a textured version. That'll be a nice portfolio piece. So that's my suggestion. As in, you know, it looks clean, it looks good. I like how you're adding the dirt from the ground. That's great. You know, add more of that onto the actual uh, cart itself, right? This little dirt pass right here. I like that. Just do it over here as well. This is feeling a bit clean, but again, you're a work in progress. So I don't know what your plans are, but definitely consider taking this corner chunk right here, sculpt it. You know, I think you've seen it before. Not a super clean corner, but like as if it's broken up. You can see the layers in between the concrete and everything. That'd be really nice. That is a good start. I would actually sharpen a lot of these tread here. It's feeling a bit mushy, right? Sharpen it a bit, right? I feel like the edges are a little bit wide. The brake disc is awesome, right? Smooth it out a bit more so it's not so edgy around the circular parts. Same here with the top. I feel like your shapes are starting to look, your big shapes are edgy, and then your bevels are a bit too wide. right? You want to tighten it a little bit because now it's feeling a bit fat. So just be careful on that. Same here, right? Overall, just be careful on your edges. Right? You have like these, you just gotta smooth them out, I bet, to help with that. It's a good start though, right? Just apply those changes, be on your way. Right, so this is older update, I think. Alright, I'm assuming this is the more smooth version of the front wheel. Definitely looking better. Just apply the same thing on the back, and I think you're on your way. Yeah, it's a good start, man. I think I already seen this, right? I'm assuming you already saw the gun and reviewed it with you in our weapon, so I won't go over it again. So I'm gonna go over to the homework channel and you know, have some questions cooking if you guys have any. But you can start seeing, right? We're about week 5, week 6. Like students, once again, not as many updates. But the ones that are here, you know, hopefully you guys are taking advantage and staying motivated, right? Boo, 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 boo. Hi guys, some screenshots so far. This is great. It's looking good, man. Talked about yours. Members. Looking at members. I like it, Ian. Basic concept for Spartan mech suit. This is cool. I actually like the top parts. Be careful on the skeleton. This looks a bit wonky, but these big shapes here, I think you should go along these lines. This one requires a human for it to actually look cool, but I think these types right here are really cool. You should really go for those. See these already? I saw these. It's a good start. I mean, it looks cool. I like the little shapes that you've come up with. That's really awesome. Yeah, just keep going. Show more stuff. That's the hardest part, just staying motivated. Yeah, strong block out. This is a really cool bike. But you can see, like, with a block out, you can get a better feel of what your bike could be, right? Then it's just taking every part one at a time and taking it to finish. Sooner or later, you're going to have something really cool, really proud of. That's it. I believe that's it. Oh, man. I want to see more weapons, guys. We're having all the students with weapons. Alright, going back to channels here. Chat. Okay. Hoping you can go over and point stuff that needs to be removed. I'll add more dust to the handle. The handle's a bit clean, and like you just mentioned, you're gonna add more. Again, look at the halfway point. This part right here is a bit clean, right? Anywhere, the first thing that you need to dirty up are edges, and that's your just everywhere on the object, right? That helps kind of bring out the shape, right? This feels a bit clean, so put some edge dirt in there. Same here, same here. Let's see. start thinking about some, not too much, but a little bit more dirt behind this, right? Because it doesn't get too much sunlight. There's usually some buildup around things that are in shadow more. But I think this is close to finish, man. Just do those few things. I think it's a wrap. You don't have to spend too much more time with this. Some edge dirt here, especially here. What halfway point? So let's look at the references. Right, so you can feel like a bit dirt over here. You can extend the dirt more to the halfway point. It feels appropriate. In shadow, it's hard to tell, but this part is usually more dirty. And if you have another screenshot behind this little dial here, you can actually give some more love. But it's close. It's getting really close. I mean, those are really nitpicky stuff. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't see any other issues with it. Yeah, I think this is your best texture piece by far, right? And hopefully you can tell the difference. It looks significantly better than anything that you've done. So a lot of that, again, is sticking to reference until you understand the reasoning behind everything, right? That's the hardest part, like I said before. Trying to guess things that you have no concept or no fundamentals in is almost nearly impossible, right? You don't want to do that to yourself. You have to study references, perfect your craft, and then you can be creative, right? So attacking projects like this, you're going to start to understand. And your military box, like I said before, is a good way to tackle your next thing. So going with that. I believe that's it. I think I went over everybody. Just a few announcements. Leo, I am like slowly. Leo is almost completely going to be taking out from the critiques, from the lighting critiques, from the pro scholar critiques. We're focusing more and more on growing the school, so we're getting extremely busy with everything that we're doing. So with that being said, these environment critiques, this might be the last few times that you'll see me doing these. I mean, scholars are going to start taking over, right? So we're dialing it down to a few cool people from Blizzard, people from Riot. So we'll announce that as that comes. But yeah, you guys gotta take advantage of this. Ask as many questions as you can. If you're not here live, obviously it's weird odd hours for a lot of you guys. Most of you guys are watching this the recording of. Be sure to just pin your questions and pin your work. Show your work, right? So do your best. Guns. Oh, okay, this is old. Like, man, I thought you were watching it. But yeah, that's it. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, this might be a very short session. Tomorrow we'll have a lot of new details on things, what the last week looks like, and like a couple of cool student success stories. So we'll be sure to share that. And I believe that's it, guys. Is it a wrap? You guys have any more questions? I'm gonna count to 10. But with that being said, again, go to the GSO Live page if you guys need to ping. Write down the dates. Yeah, testimonial page would be great, actually. I think it's time. A lot of students are being very complimentary, So it'd be great to show other students that as well who are curious about the school. But we are increasing in numbers, most definitely. A lot of people are finding us without us even advertising. So tomorrow is a start of a concerted effort of letting people know, keeping people in the loop, to people who aren't members, right? To kind of have some kind of interaction with the community besides the Discord, right? Just knowing what's up every week, I think is very important. I hate doing newsletters, so if we can do it in some kind of video broadcast and then break that down in print, uh, that might be a better way of doing things. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts on what you guys want to know about every week, what you want to see. If you were to tune in every Friday, what would you want to know about what happened that week? Uh, go in the general tab, start discussing. Be sure to tag me so I can see it, right? Because as you can see, all the channels now is like you leave for 2 seconds and like 200 messages go by. So it's very hard for me to go through all that unless you tag me. Question is hoping you can go over. Wait, how does texturing work for environments that have rain, like in Arkham Knight, where it's always raining? Is it done solely in effects, like water dripping down pipes, etc.? Yeah, the only thing you would be texturing onto the prop would be maybe residue, but a lot of that is done through shaders, right? If you're talking about actual water dripping on a prop, right? So the thing you would do as an artist or when you're texturing a prop is making sure that spec, the bentleness or gloss or whatever your PBR or pipeline is extremely reflective, because that's what objects look like when they're wet, right? They are extremely reflective. So that's the authoring part. Everything else is driven through shaders. Pretty much a texture panner. Something really cheap, if you want to show, right? And then, of course, effects will help with that illusion as well. Pretty much that. How do you manage to keep control on your bevel edges? I go back often to alter my shapes, but it's really hard once they've been beveled. I'm always afraid of beveling too soon and that correcting and fixing glitches becomes very hard. Let me see if I can open it up. Let me open up my I'll show you real quick. Motorcycling class was done a while ago, so I don't know if I went over this, but for review, I'll just show it anyways. So give me a sec, I'll open it up, I'll show you. Okay, let's see. Starting up, give me a sec. There's a couple ways of doing it. Hopefully you can see my screen. Man, I'm doing it on my second monitor and it's just not. It feels weird. Everything feels so big. It's not working. One sec. Let me see if I can broadcast my first window. 1 second, guys. Hello, hello. All right, hopefully you can see this. Correct. So there's this thing called the crease tool, which is very helpful. You can use that to help crease things before you commit to them. It's under mesh tools, crease, and you just middle mouse and you see how it creases right there and how the lines darken. Go in your preview, you can start seeing like something like that, right? That's one of the crease things, right? This doesn't look so great actually. Usually that's one way to crease things. Another way to help, let's see, let's do it this way. All right, when you're ready to commit, let's go through the full process. You actually convert that. All the geometry has actually changed. Let me find it real quick. You can convert that to edges. Looking at your questions right now. Oh. Modify, convert. Smooth preview to polygons. Oh jeez, that looks terrible. What's wrong with this tool? Well, never mind. That doesn't seem to work as well as it used to. Yeah, it's always like you're saying, how do you manage to keep controlling your bevel edges? I go back often to alter my shape, but it's really hard once they've been beveled. I'm always afraid of beveling too soon, and that correcting and fixing glitches becomes very hard. You definitely want to bevel near the end, right? Maya's really bad with history, right? Once you commit, like you said, that's it, right? So definitely save it to the end. That is usually the best case. And take it object by object, right? So don't bevel too soon. The best way to manipulate something is during this time when you have the actual window up, like so, because you're gonna have a lot more control this way, right? Have that nice little bevel right there. And that's it, man. That's really it. You can always. So my usual process would be, well, the crease tool was very helpful, but the shading looks horrible right now. I don't know why. But if that doesn't work, right? Let's see, let's do this and just try the crease tool again. I mean, that's supposed to work, but it's not. It's having weird shader issues right now. Right. So, doing your block out, that's the first step. Doing your low poly, that's the first step, right? Getting to the next stage where you have all your sharp edges. And then copying that into a layer is usually a good idea, right? You don't want to overcommit something, so you always have your original. So you duplicate, Control D, create empty layer, you add this. All right, so you always have a backup, right? You always want your original to have backup. You can put and toggle wait, I forgot what transparency and reference, I believe. You can toggle these so that you can never delete it or touch it, right? And you won't. As long as you have that, you can always go back. I think that is probably the most efficient way. There's another way too. I believe it's under Windows. It's coming back to me. Crease sets. This is supposedly supposed to help you with creating sets of creases. So let's say I have a cube right here, and select the edges, and I can create new. And the way it works is that it saves your selections as a crease set, and you can always remove it or add it, right? So it's kind of like the same thing that I was doing before by creasing it, but now it's like it has a list, right? This is very helpful because it actually has a list. So again, it's just selecting the edges you want to crease, new, right? And then you have these edges as creases that you can, you know, maintain, right? You can remove it or delete it, right? It deletes that. That's one way to do it. Right now the crease tool isn't working so well. But what's helpful about the crease tool that I know will definitely still work is that if you crease it in Maya, right, it's buggy sometimes, but when you import that model into ZBrush later, once you guys learn ZBrush, you can actually use those creases to help with subdivision. And over there, it works fantastic, right? Yeah, the outliner gets cluttered, but you just gotta group things, you know? Let's say you have your backup here. There's always ways to organize it without it looking stupid. And then let's see, you have several backups, several highs. Right? All you need to do is just select your backups, group it, right? Name that originals. That's always going to be there. Group it, Control G, high poly, right? I mean, it still looks clean. And you can do groups within groups, right? You can take this and like, oh, upper, and this is actually good practice for you guys. Like, you need to be constantly having your outliner open and renaming things as you go. It's going to make it a lot easier. Some artists prefer to do it all the way at the end, right? I prefer to just do it as we go because then you don't have to try to remember things, right? Yeah, right now the crease to subdivision isn't looking so hot. It's just not looking good. Let's try one more time. This tool was made for creasing, right? So it helps, but if you're just sticking strictly to Maya, right? Eventually you're gonna learn ZBrush, but right now for this course, it's better to do the old backup and high poly copy to get the bevel exactly the way you want it, because there's an extra step in ZBrush to play around with the bevel, but obviously this is a Maya only class, so you need to stick to Maya to get this result. But I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me go back real quick. All right, hopefully that was helpful. But that pretty much wraps up this session. I love questions like that. It definitely helps when students join live and ask those type of things. Again, it's not impossible. If you for some reason can't make it, you can always pin these questions so that maybe it's something I can go over, like we just did the creasing thing. But it's good to kind of review that once in a while. You guys might miss it in the video, or just completely didn't understand it in the lecture. Those are the type of questions that helps, I think, a lot of people. I go pretty fast through the videos. I try to be as thorough as possible, but sometimes I don't remember what I went over because obviously I recorded that a long time ago. So you guys bringing it up because you guys just watch it, or a certain thing you guys want me to extend, these live sessions are perfect for that, because I can just pop up my ZBrush or whatever and just show you. Right, so you don't have to dig. But I mean, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Great questions, right? The regulars. if there is any word of motivation, and you'll see me kind of talking about this tomorrow during our GSO TV. Don't know what to call it yet. I'm just calling it TV. That's what I wrote in my notes. But the students are all that always show up to these things, that are always watching these critique videos on live or even on Patreon. The one that asks a lot of good questions, the one that actually, are persistent, are the ones that are always the one are the ones that always get the job. All right, that's just what I see. It's a very disciplinary pattern, and it gets expected results everywhere that I go, everywhere I see, not just being in the game industry, but students in all types of industries, students in all walks of life. That's just the way to do it. So keep at it, guys. By now, hopefully, you guys seen. We had a few students gotten jobs before, but Sean Booth. Nice shout out to Sean. I would say he's the first pure GSO student. He started with us a while ago. He's been very active, and a lot of advice, especially from Leo, and he is able to land that job, all on his own, right, with a little help from us, which is great. It was fantastic. So a little bit more about that type of stuff tomorrow. So thank you guys. Wrapping up. Have a good one.